I asked a famous producer once what his philosophy of mixing was, and he just said, "Well, I keep mixing until it sounds good." Well, it's not very helpful, but it is the truth. There's no checklist like there is with a recipe where you just add all this up and stir it, and pretty soon it turns into what you want. And there's no shortage of advice on mixing. If I jump over to Amazon here, I did a search for mixing and audio and confined it to books, and I got 1,200 and some results. And some of these are legendary books on mixing by really good people. I'm trying to figure out what the advice is in this chapter on mixing, and I don't want it to be me telling you how much reverb your vocal should have and whether it should be a plate or a gate and whether you should brighten your snare. I think those are creative decisions you should make, but I will show you how to do it. So I'll jump back to Pro Tools. And we'll talk about this session in the next movie, but I want to talk to you about the philosophy of mixing. There are mixers that try and make it sound their way. They have a sound, they have favorite tools they use. We're in the era of designer plugins so that a producer engineer becomes famous for a certain kick drum sound, or they design a plugin. Sometimes it's for vocals. So those people, you hire them and that's what you get. They try and make your song conform to their sound. That's why you went after them in the first place. Other producers pride themselves on wanting every track to have its own unique identity, and I bet you know who those people are too. So let's not argue the point whether a producer's job is to conform your song to his or her individual style, or whether a producer's job is to give each piece of work its own identity. The goal of this chapter is to help you understand the process and the tools that are available so that your mix can best represent the work that you put into the project before you got to the mix window. So mixing is all about focus. What parts do you want to be the star of the show, and then what's there to play a supporting role? If you're mixing a track with narration, that's going to be the focus, and music and sound effects and everything else should just support it. If it's a song, the focus may be the lead vocal, usually is, but sometimes the groove is right there behind it. When the vocal pauses, something else should take the focus. Maybe it's an instrumental hook, a guitar part, a keyboard part, a horn part, bass part. If everything's the same volume, then nothing's in focus, and that's probably what's wrong with the mix. So, with that philosophy in mind, where do you start? A lot of engineers start mixing a track by soloing the kick drum. Well, of course you want the kick drum to sound good, and if it needs a noise gate or some EQ, you want to put it there. But not every track should be driven by the kick drum, and that's not automatically where you should start your mix. The beauty of a mix is in how the sounds blend and complement one another, and not in how gorgeous the kick drum or any other single sound sounds by itself. So that's our philosophy in this chapter, and we'll explore this session in the next movie.